Hey, what's up, WWE Universe? How's it going? Hey, how y'all doing? Welcome to Retro Bros podcast channel, YouTube channel, and welcome to Retro RawDown episode 8. That's right, Great 8 coming up right now. Now, if any of you out there are new to the channel or new to our videos, then and you enjoy what you're seeing, then feel free to hit the subscribe button on the channel, and uh, and we'll be glad to accommodate you in your interests and we'll be glad to welcome you into our universe. So basically, what we do here on Retro Rawdown, at least this show, is we go over the week's Raw, SmackDown, and any possible pay-per-views that happen throughout the week. So I, not we, once again, I will be flying Sokoa solo. Oh, forgive me as well. I'd like to introduce myself. My full name's Natasha, aka Nat, aka Good Mania. Yeah, so I usually do these retro rawdown shows with my buddy CJ. CJ runs the Retro Bros podcast along with my other friend Frank. But CJ unfortunately is not available tonight, so sorry, you guys have to put up with me once again. At least one more time, flying the Sokoa way, the solo way, if you will. And I'll be glad to feed your minds with wrestling news and insight and opinions as best I can. Okay, so um, so as I mentioned before, I will be glad to give my insights, my views and opinions on what happened this past week on Raw and SmackDown, as well as anything I remember or can put my, if you will, my 2 cents in as to what I felt about each match from last night's Extreme Rules pay per view. And for that matter, I call them I still call them pay per views and not premium live events. I'm old school that way. So um, let's get down to business here. We will begin with Monday Night Raw, which of course was last Monday night. And so the first match we have here, we had Finn Balor, Damian Priest from the Judgment Day, of course, against the phenomenal AJ Styles, one of my favorites, and Rey Mysterio. Um, Now, one of the first things I noticed with this match was very interesting. Um, yeah, there was a point where Mysterio was delivering a sitting senton in the match, and it looked like Finn was actually, like taking the attack in. It didn't look like he was just just waiting for excuse me, waiting for Ray to actually deliver it. Like it looked a little more realistic than usual. So that looked pretty good. And then another point I made was um, there was a point I mentioned last week with a match with Seth freaking Rollins and Mysterio. There was a point where Rollins was trying to do like doing a little mockery of Eddie Guerrero with the Three Amigos moves, and he didn't. He seemed to have pretty much botched it, if you ask me. But this past Monday, when Finn tried to do it, he actually completed the move. So it looked much better in terms of delivery and in impact than when Rollins tried to do it the week before. And also, I have here, there's something, I don't know about all of you, but there's something I noticed about Rhea Ripley, who, again, another one of my favorites. I don't know about you all, but has she been in a singles match ever since joining the Judgment Day? If you ask me, no, which really sucks because I, for one, enjoy her and respect her ring savvy and her overall who overall um, is one of the best in the ring. There's no question, and I miss seeing her in singles competition, but it seems to have pulled away ever since she became a Judgment Day member. So so yeah, that's that seems to be a little more worse for the wear. Um, but hopefully sooner or later we'll see we'll see Rhea in more singles competition. Despite just being, you can say it if you want to say it, despite being a backbone for the Judgment Day. Okay, so the next point I have here regarding that match is yeah, there was a point where Damian Priest tried to do like a springboard move off the middle ropes, and I just found it interesting to see a guy of his size even attempting to do a springboard, because you would normally see like lighter weight guys, or more of the high flying guys try to do these springboard moves, like Mysterio for that matter. You wouldn't necessarily expect um, uh, bigger guys like Priest to attempt those um, moves like that. So if you girl can just give me a second here, I'll be right there. I'm just about ready to give more points. Bear with me. Okay. Alrighty. Thank you all for bearing with me. I appreciate it. Okay. So yeah. So to end off this match here, once again, it was the Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damian Priest against AJ and Mysterio. Um, Always impressive to see the coup de grace by Balor. It's one of his best moves, of course, his finishing move, and Judgment Day picks up the victory. Um, you know, I I have a loyalty towards AJ. Mysterio wasn't never really one of my favorites, and then on the other side, of course, I have a loyalty towards Finn and not necessarily Priest. But so I sort of have mixed emotions, if you will, about the result of this match. But nonetheless, it was overall a decent tag match, and I didn't exactly make a note of it, but I mean, I can almost guarantee that the rest of the rest of the Judgment Day um, must have come in a little bit afterwards and started attacking Mysterio and Styles for that matter. Okay, so the next match we had here for this past Monday's Raw was Bobby Lashley against Mustafa Ali. If I recall correctly, there was a backstage moment between the two. Lashley was just being interviewed, and you know, he was talking about like what's next for Lashley in terms of for sure in terms of challenging or having his next challenger for the U.S. title. So Ali shows up and he's like, I want my shot, right? But this match ended up not being not being a title match. Um, so one of the first points I made or noticed was, like it couldn't be more mismatched. Like you got Ali the high flyer, and you got Lashley the powerhouse, right? So it's no question that their each superstar's advantages would sort of confuse their opponent, right? Because if you got one who's better at one set of move sets or one set of wrestling styles, then there's no way the his or her opponent can match up to it. So forgive me for being a broken record, but I've always said that a good match or a great match for that matter would be, like, for example, a one-on-one match. The two superstars, you know, will have the same kind of move sets or just like styles of wrestling moves. Always makes for a better match. But you know what? Um, in a way, when the two opponents are mismatched, then in a strange way, that also makes for at least a decent match. Not necessarily a pretty good match, but a decent match overall, because both superstars would still have their advantages and disadvantages, which their opponent can capitalize. So in that sense, that still makes for a good match. Okay, there was as the match went on, Lashley's arm had become not necessarily dislocated, but it had become the focus of Ali's attack because if I remember correctly, it was I believe whacked into the steel post, and there was an amazing. Like this is a wow moment. It's like a 450 splash by Ali right onto Lashley's arm, like it was right on target. And definitely Ali couldn't have timed that or aimed that any better. So that was definitely a wow moment in that match. And when good for Ali for stepping up his game and trying to match up with the larger size Lashley. But even as hard as you're trying, you do not slap a guy in the face like Lashley. I mean, you're gonna get broken in half, right? Let's face it. So that was that was a big mistake by Ali. Um, I liked. I also liked to end off the match. There was a transition, and this was very unique. I thought Lashley had done like a 3-point stance, right, and into a spear, and then or he was at least trying to attempt a spear, and turns it into or eventually gets to the hurt lock, um, and to knock out Ali for the victory. So like when guys or girls are able to mix up not necessarily different move sets but different moves, then I find that to be very very impressive. It doesn't matter um, the experience level or anything like that. It shows the skill that whoever you're watching is there and ready to go, and ready to show off their best. Okay, the next match we have here is Candice LeRae against Dakota Kai of Damage Control. And the first thing I pointed out or noticed in this match, or was actually asking myself for that matter, knowing that Candice LeRae is in real life married to Johnny Gargano. And what I tried to sort of pinpoint was, does she share the same or similar moves to Gargano, like in terms of kicks or rope maneuvers or anything like that. If you guys want to leave comments on that, by all means, go for it. I mean, it would be pretty obvious, right? If they train together or something like that. So that should be interesting if their moves are pretty much similar. And now that I think of it, even this is like a this is like an on the spot thought. It'd be interesting to see maybe the two of them team up and have like a mixed tag team match or something. And I've always said that like if somewhere along the line there can be mixed tag team matches with husband and wives superstars tagging up together. Um, I mean, right off the bat, one time I had mentioned with let's say like Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, that's a husband and wife right there, teaming up against, let's say, Montez Ford and Bianca Belair, right? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Right? I think so. So, maybe who knows? Maybe somewhere down the line we'll see Gargano and LeRae tag up. So that'd be interesting. Um, says here, yeah. A lot of what I do too is I like to compare certain superstars' moves if I notice it to others, and I noticed when Dakota was going up the ropes for a kick, it almost looked very similar to a Sheamus Bro kick. So I found that interesting, and I had mentioned this once too about Kevin Owens, that he uses a lot of other superstars' moves instead of more of his own. And you know what? That's all. If I got the right word, interpretation, right? So, anyway, I guess anything it takes to defeat your opponent, hey, go for it, right? You're in there, and yeah, wrestling is staged and whatever, but if you could think of things on the fly, then all power to you. You can think about what to do and how to do it, and hey, whatever it takes to beat your opponent. So that looked pretty amazing, and of course, it was no surprise that Dakota Kai ended up picking up the victory thanks to outside interference from Io Sky and Bailey. So you gotta expect that, right? When you're in a tag team or you're in a faction, and you're let's face it, your opponent can't be stupid about it and think, oh, I'll be fine. You gotta expect not necessarily the unexpected, but you gotta think that's more likely going to happen. Okay, next match we have here. Speaking of Johnny Gargano, we have Otis against Johnny Gargano, and Again, another sort of mismatch. You got Gargano, the smaller guy, against Otis, the bigger guy, but they seem to it seemed to have worked out pretty well. They they seem to have known each other in terms of ring styles and just getting familiar with each other's ring savvy, if you will. Now, this I found interesting too. Of course, when Otis was coming down to the ring along with Gable, of course, Theory had accompanied them, so I found that kind of interesting. And either the commentators or Theory himself had mentioned, and I quote, "All Day Academy." I thought, okay, that sounds interesting. That's a that would be an interesting new name if um, Theory eventually joins up with Gable and Otis to become another brand new faction. It actually wouldn't be a bad idea. Would actually look pretty good. Um, there was, I would say, in this case, the most damaging move of the whole match. There was a belly to belly suplex by Otis to Gargano, and it looked like, again, in terms of like being broken in half or broken in pieces, there had seemed to be more impact than usual. And what else do we have here? And when it comes to superstars having their moments and going back and forth in terms of momentum, Gargano had his moment, and there was when uh, it says here, yeah, just as much momentum for Gargano, countering into a DDT, and so despite all that, Otis comes up with the victory. Um, yeah. So afterwards, uh, the whole academy and Theory gangs up and beats up on Gargano. But who shows up? Strowman, because of course, ever since Strowman's return, he seemed to be having a thing with the academy. So it was neat to see Strowman again. And speaking of Strowman, that leads into the next match here. He participated in the next match against Gable, and you would think, some of us sort of gullible fans would think, oh, Gable's going to have the home field advantage, right? Of course, this reminds me now that as to where Raw took place, it was in St. Paul, Minnesota, and of course, that's the home of Gable. But unfortunately, that didn't seem to work for the shusher, if you will. The poor shusher got his butt kicked, if you will, by Strowman. Um, this I found interesting, and again, Gable being the smaller guy, being able to do this to a guy like Strowman. And I found it interesting. It seems like the first few minutes of the match, Gable was in control. You would think, again, I'm sure most of us expected Strowman to have the momentum to at least start off, but it was Gable. And I found it interesting how the smaller guy Gable was able to um, deliver a German suplex to Strowman, almost knocking him out. So that was pretty impressive. And then when they showed backstage that Omos and MVP were watching, I was like, interesting. Is my dream match going to be, or is it getting closer to being a reality? And of course, my one of my dream matches, I mentioned this in a previous broadcast, that I would love to see Braun Strowman against Omos, and of course, having to possibly reinforce the ring. So that'd be something. And And again, in terms of a more impactful move than usual, to pick up the win, Strowman gives a power bomb to Gable, and again, it looked more of a like a bang than usual, right? So there was no way Gable was getting up, so Strowman picks up the victory thanks to that. Okay, next match we have here is Solo Sikoa of the Bloodline, of course, against uh, a man flying solo himself in Angelo Dawkins. Of course, Montez Ford was in his corner. Unfortunately, Montez had a boot, a sort of like a cast boot on one of his feet. He had an injury, I believe, only a couple of weeks ago, something like that. So Dawkins had to fly solo against Solo. Anyway, so I wrote here another wow moment. Um, Leaping drop kick by Dawkins, and again, this comes into the effect of bigger guys being able to do these high flying moves. It's amazed me for the longest time, and again, a guy of Dawkins' size being able to do a move like that is fascinating, really. And then when it comes to the power display, I had mentioned this about Lashley. Both Solo Sikoa and Angelo Dawkins are amazing power wrestlers. Like they can lift God knows how many guys at once. Like if you put one of them into, let's say, a handicap match against two or three other guys, right? They can probably lift all three of those guys if they wanted to and give some kind of slam. Like, for example, maybe Solo could give like a, what's it called, a Samoan drop to three average sized guys easily. And when it comes to Dawkins, he could probably do like maybe a suplex off, or a superplex even off the top rope with at least three average sized guys. That's the power display from both guys. And then what else do I have here? Yeah, just how vicious Solo is amazing too. Like he so far from what I've seen from him is he's not so much like his brothers, the Usos, but he's a lot like what his father Rikishi was way back in the day. Like Rikishi was part of a tag team called the Headshrinkers, and they were very like brute force power wrestlers as well. So Solo sort of reminds me of that version of his father Rikishi. Not so much the the bigger sort of just like using his weight to his advantage, but the more powerlifting move set like that. So, but still very impressive. And I just wrote here after that whether it was thanks or not to the outside interference from the Usos and Sammy, Sikoa picks up the win with the swinging solo. Yeah, I mean, my basic opinion on that is I do think I think Solo would have picked up the victory anyway over Dawkins because it really doesn't look like the Profits are moving up the ranks, if you will. Whether whether they try to um, whether they try to put Dawkins or Ford into a singles match or have them have them tag up because they get title shots but they keep failing. So you know it only opens the door for other tag teams or having new tag teams to be created. So um, you know, this whole thing with Sammy and Jey Uso, especially, did that distract Solo or did that distract Dawkins for that matter? Who knows? But nonetheless, Solo picks up the victory. And again, I like how the swinging Solo looks. very similar to the Rock's Rock Bottom. Again, the influence of the family there. Okay, um, the last match I have here. This is the last match I took a note of, but was it the last match or not? I can't recall. But nonetheless, I have here Alexa Bliss versus Io Sky, and this was because of an attack that took place backstage after I believe Dakota Kai's match. Both Asuka and um, Bianca were attacked. So and Alexa was too, but Alexa was the one who stood up, and she's like, you know, specifically towards Io. She's like, "You, me, tonight in the ring," something like that. So that leads to that. And one of the first points I made was, Alexa was always called the 5 Feet of Fury, and she definitely showed that off at the beginning of this match. She had definitely the control and the edge to start off, and doing very well with that. And I have another wow moment here for this match, and this shows, this shows that Io Sky is not necessarily a rookie. She has experience. She's wrestled all over the world and for many years, and this wow moment was amazing. She made like a pile driver setup in and converted it into a backbreaker. So again, the mix of moves is just totally amazing, and that was a very good move or moves by Io Sky. And with that, it eventually leads to and again, this is another mix of two different moves. I wrote here Alabama Slam set up into a neck breaker, followed by the finishing move, the flying moonsault. So you got three moves in a span of what, less than a minute? So all that transition, can you imagine how much skill that takes to put all those moves together? And that helped out uh, Io Sky to pick up the victory. And for that matter, I don't recall seeing any outside interference by Dakota or Bailey for that matter. So that made this match a little bit better than, let's say, Dakota Kai's match earlier in the night. So that's all I have here for Raw. Raw was overall a good show as always. Decent matches, and I don't know about you guys, but you know, I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow night's Monday Night Raw, this season premiere. With I can remember one point is what's the 25th anniversary of DX. So hopefully my co-host CJ will be able to join me for that review next weekend. We'll have a lot to talk about. Although, as you all see, I'm sort of babbling, and I apologize if I'm talking too much, but I like to be able to elaborate as much as I can. So, with that in mind, I will now switch over to SmackDown. And so, of course, this past Friday night's SmackDown was, of course, the last um, televised show before the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. So there was, in terms of matches, there was still a couple of good matches, but it was basically just more of a prelude, or if you will, like a, excuse me, its own preview show for Extreme Rules, which is pretty much, if you ask me, that's how any show is, like before the last show before a pay-per-view. Whether it's a Raw or SmackDown. Well, most of the time it's SmackDown, because the pay-per-views are on the weekend. So nonetheless, I'll start off here. So once again, we see We see Solo Sikoa in action, this time against Ricochet. And I wrote here, good psych out by Ricochet going for a possible crossbody over the top rope onto Sikoa, but springboards off the ropes instead. So that's always fun to see too. Like when your opponent thinks you're doing one move, but then almost right on the spot, or whether it is on the spot or not, it's still amazing to see that you can get your opponent to be prepared for one move, but you're going to do another. So that's another advantage too. And um, this match too is not necessarily that much mismatch, but in a way it is, because again you got the more powerful Sokoa against the high flyer Ricochet. So when when Ricochet was preparing for the crossbody and did the springboard instead, that for sure must have uh, thrown Sokoa off his game a little bit. So that definitely helped for Ricochet. And yeah, so unfortunately, though, when you try too many of the same kind of moves, it could also come back to bite you, because uh, I had wrote here. I wrote um, another springboard by Ricochet turns into a hard right hand by Sokoa. So obviously Sokoa must have realized that, okay, this guy's going to try. I'm dealing with a high flyer. I'm dealing with a guy who can do the springboard. So I'll prepare myself. So right there, right on the spot, he does, and that hard right hand helped him out. And then so that unfortunately there was a hard enough hand that and what I found interesting too is that it didn't look like Ricochet was uh, climbing out of the ring. It actually looked like he fell out of the ring, and unfortunately hitting his neck on the ring apron, and I won't ouch, because I don't know if you've all have ever seen this before, but um, the hardest part of the ring is is the edge around it, like between just under the ropes, and basically the last spot before you would fall onto the floor. That's wood, and you know, like like when you see, let's say, like a power bomb or something. From that right onto that wood, that part of the rig, that hurts. And it can be done anywhere. It can be done on the back or the arms or anywhere, and it's definitely much a harder, or the hardest part of the ring, even more than like the center of it with the mat. And then yeah, this again, there was a lot of transitioning. Uh, Apparently over both shows, because I noticed here the way Sokoa picked up the win was Ricochet was trying to make an attempt of his finishing move, the 450 splash, and he grabs Ricochet almost in midair and turns it into his finishing move, the swinging solo, and picks up the victory. So that was an amazing way to end that match. And I don't know about you all, but this definitely surprised me that there was absolutely no outside interference or help from Sammy, for that matter, or the Usos, or of course any members of the Bloodline. So that for one surprised me. Okay, next match we have here is a women's tag. We have Xia Li and Sonya Deville against Raquel Rodriguez and Shotzi. Um, I will always respect Sonya Deville as a competitor. Uh, she's she's like one of those badass girls, like she doesn't she doesn't act like a prima donna or a Barbie doll or anything like that. She actually wrestles, and her character may be a little out of context, but her wrestling skills are always and always will be commendable. And I just felt there was overall excellent teamwork by Shotzi and Raquel to pick up the victory. Um, I like I like uh, Raquel's like powerhouse look. You know, she's very well built, a decent sized competitor, and definitely uses it to her advantage, and always helps out. Um, yeah, I also wrote down here. Shotzi delivers a somewhat blue thunder bomb to Lee. Raquel finishes with her move, the Tejada bomb, and that's just another example of other superstars interpreting um, other superstars' moves, and it all comes down to what whatever it takes to defeat your opponents. And yeah, Raquel and Shotzi made a pretty good team, but to be honest, not a great team. You know, like Shotzi is still sort of transitioning, if you will, into the face role. You know, she was known more as a heel, so I guess fans are still getting used to that. Okay, so then we have here a six-man tag. Sami Zayn and the Usos, so basically the Bloodline, against the New Day and Braun Strowman. You know, and again, I don't know about you guys, but when the New Day came out and it was said that they had like a mystery partner, in the back of my mind, and I didn't even write this down. The back of my mind was saying, "Oh, is Big E coming back? That would be nice, right?" I was literally waiting for to hear, "Oh, WWE fans, don't you dare be sour! Clap for your world famous 10-time champs and feel the power." I was waiting for it, but I was just as happy to see Strowman, and that made me think again. There's maybe not so much, but there are a few guys and girls who've been switching back and forth between shows, which again is absolutely no necessary means for the draft. I mean, the draft's a neat idea. It's kind of a surprise as to where guys and girls would be ending up. But nonetheless, it's not really needed because Strowman's a perfect example. Ever since his return, it seems like he's been on both shows, and hey, that's great for me, and the way he's been presenting himself and looking is absolutely amazing. Like he looks so much more fit and well built than what we knew him before. And for that matter, I still call him the monster among men. You know, they call him now the monster of all monsters, but I stick to monster of all men, or even the Strowman Express. When he gets out of the ring and runs around almost all the way around the ring and knocks his opponent out, or even doesn't really matter to him. Anyone that's in his way, he knocks out. So he's always been impressive. And speaking of impressive, it always gets to me with the flying Kofi, like when Kofi goes to one side of the ring for the ropes and then flies out like that. I don't. For the life of me, I'll never know how. Not just Kofi, but some of the other guys, how they do that. Like, do they have springs in their shoes? You tell me. Um, maybe it's the flexibility. Who knows? But that's always impressed me. So I just wrote here, flying Kofi, always impressive. Fly over the top rope onto floor, knocking over Jey Uso and Jimmy too. Yeah, I mean the way the way Sammy and Jay were tagging each other in was also another interesting point because it it pretty much added on to their supposed storyline as that they pretty much can't stand each other, or more like Jey Uso can't stand Sammy. So the way they were tagging each other was like they would either slap each other on the shoulder or even a little shove, right? So they weren't exactly tagging in. They were, and it almost looked funny. I mean, I've said it for the longest time. I can't stand seeing Sammy as part of the bloodline, or if you will, the honorary Uso. Uh, it just doesn't sit well. Sammy belongs in a tag team with Kevin Owens because they know each other so well, and all the way back to their days in NXT and training together. So, if you ask me, they should become a permanent tag team. At least for at least I'd say a couple of years or so, and go up against the Usos for the belts, and that would make a superb match. I would call that for Mania, if anything. Okay, and then um, well, you can blame Jey Uso and Sammy for costing the Bloodline this match because the New Day and Strowman ended up victorious. Um, you it's obvious you could pretty much blame Jay and Sammy because again they can't stand each other. So poor Jimmy was stuck in the middle. He didn't know what to do. So I just call it deception in the ranks. That's what cost them. What are you gonna do? You got if Sammy's gonna stick around supposedly for as long as he thinks he is, then they'll just have to write something in the story that Jay will eventually have to accept it, pretty much. Okay, so the last match we have here was was an actual rematch from Clash of the Castle, the for the Intercontinental title. Gunther champion against Sheamus challenger. Um, this was very much like their match at Clash of the Castle, and I had called it right down the middle. Like the not even 5 minutes into the match, Sheamus was already showing scars and cuts and blood because both guys are, like the not so much powerful, but the you call Sheamus's group the Brawling Brutes. They're called the Brawling Brutes for a reason. They come right at you, no hesitation, nothing, right? And Gunther's the same way with his guys at Imperium. Same idea. Very similar styles, and as I always say, makes for a great match, and it did. I just wrote that it was like pretty scary sight on Sheamus's part when it's just like seeing all his scars and bruises, right? Because you know, I even found myself asking, is it easier to see on Sheamus's skin because he's so pale? I mean, obviously Gunther had the same kind of after effects from their Clash at the Castle match, and eventually near the end of this match, but he's not as pale as Sheamus is. So but there had to be just as much after effect. So what else I got here? Yeah, I was just thinking like the slap fest they had. You might as well be hitting brick walls. Like who knows whose hand would have broken first? It was crazy. Um, yeah, the Sheamus had not delivered this move for quite a while, the white noise off the second rope in the corner. That was, again, more impactful than just when he used to do it right on the right on the mat, right? You do any kind of slam move, like a suplex, a power slam, or and in this case, Sheamus's white noise. Um, I don't know how exactly, but if you do something like that off the any rope, the third, the second, or the first, the top rope, it just seems to give more um, uh, impact and more pain towards your opponent. Um, so I just wrote here also a BS win by Gunther to retain the title. Um, so he intercepted a bro kick attempt by Sheamus. Um, knocks Sheamus with a shillelagh thrown in by Ludwig Kaiser from the outside. So again, outside interference came into play. Of course, obviously with the referee's back turned, and yeah, this is where the controversy comes in. Apparently before this, Gunther was tapping, but um, Sheamus was looking at the ref. I was saying like he tapped out, but apparently it wasn't either long enough or the ref had seen it, but not at the right time. So unfortunately for Sheamus, the referee wasn't there, right place, right time to see the tap out. So if you ask me, for one, he was screwed. So that's where the controversy comes in. But um, he Gunther gets the win, and again, it was a BS kind of thing. But that um, is a perfect prelude to my last bit of um, views and opinions. We're going to touch base, as promised, on last night's Extreme Rules pay-per-view. And speaking of Gunther and Sheamus, they were involved in the first match on the card. It was a six-man tag. Brawling Brutes, Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch against Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and forgive me, but I forgot the other fellow's name. I apologize. But I really didn't have much to pinpoint on this match. I mean, all six guys were all over the place like crazy. Like the only thing that was really on my mind was, what does it mean, a Donnybrook match? They called this a good old fashioned Donnybrook, and I just never really knew what the term Donnybrook was. And my dad actually explained it to me that it's just another word for a fight or a brawl. So um, and actually, now that I think of it, it was weird too that they called it a six-man tag, but really it was just the six guys beating the hell out of each other. So it wasn't as if you ask me, it wasn't necessarily a tag team match, where they tagging each other out. It was just they were just all over the place. But the Brutes came out victorious, so that was cool. I mean, for as long as Sheamus has been around, he never really became one of my favorites. But I mean, for one, I can't stand Gunther, or as he was known in NXT, Walter. Um, I honestly don't like him being champion. I would like to see Sheamus get his and become Grand Slam champion somewhere down the line. And if you ask me, if it's a big if they have another encounter, which I guess most likely they will, let it be in a either a steel cage match or maybe Hell in a Cell. Something where the other guys from Imperium or the other guys in the Brawling Brutes cannot interfere, or even um, if the other guys from Imperium or the Brutes interfere, it would be like an automatic win for the other. So let's say let's say Butch interferes, it would be an automatic win for Gunther, something like that. Something where um, the other members of the Brutes and Imperium cannot interfere, and that should be for the title as well. Okay, the next match from Extreme Rules was one I was very happy with, to say the least. The baddest woman on the planet, Rowdy Ronda Rousey, beat the hell out of Liv Morgan, I'm very happy to say, and became the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, I was thinking that, I'm thinking now Ronda's going to hold on to the title for longer than what she did in her first title reign, because, you know, if they were to, um, they had Liv win the title at Money in the Bank, cashing in Money in the Bank right on the same night. So if they were not to keep Ronda, they would have let her go and we never see her again. But the fact that she stuck around is interesting, because that would mean that she would have the eventual title shot with Liv, which she did, and beat her. That was last night at Extreme Rules. So, if you ask me now, eh, Ronda's gonna hold on to the title now for um, not necessarily much longer, but a little bit longer than she did before, and that's fine by me because I love the Rowdy one, no doubt. All right, the next match. Next match was Drew McIntyre against Karrion Kross in the strap match. The strap match made me think of WWE Hall of Famer JBL, because he used to have a lot of matches like that, particularly known as cowbell. So it was sort of like a strap, like him and his opponent would have a rope tied around him and his opponent's wrist, and there would be like a cowbell attached to either side, and the object of that match was to hit it on the four corners, right? So that sort of gave me a flashback to that. But I was sort of questioning myself, whether Drew or Cross hit each other with the strap. Was it real leather or was it really hard? Because actually, now that I think of it, I found myself looking close at like Drew's back after Cross would whack him with the strap, and I'm thinking, you know what? I've seen worse after effects from hits like that. You can get hit worse than that from something like, let's say, a kendo stick, right? So if you think about it, this strap wasn't as, you can call it painful. It wasn't as painful as, let's say, getting whacked by a kendo stick. Um, I hated the end of this match. It was going great until Cross's girl Scarlett got into the picture, and I know it was no disqualification match, like pretty much every match in this pay-per-view, the Extreme Rules, but it was not necessary. I mean, both guys had their moments and their controlling of the match, so there was absolutely no necessary way for or to have Scarlett interfere. Of course, I was going for Drew, but so it pissed me off that happened, and then Cross came up with the victory. So I wasn't crazy about that at all, but nonetheless, that's what happened. What are you going to do? Okay. Next match here was Bianca Belair against Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship in a ladder match. And one part I remember, and I found myself smiling from ear to ear that they brought up the history of the ladder match. Like, of course, the first televised ladder match was way back in '94, almost 30 years ago. Of course, WrestleMania 10 with Shawn Michaels and Razor. So I loved how they brought that up. That's respect for the history, and I always respect that. But this was a first. This was, I believe, this was the first time the Raw Women's title was defended in a ladder match or something like that. Or either that, or it was the first time both Bayley and Bianca participated in a ladder match. I mean, of course, both of them had the experience from the Money in the Bank ladder match, but this was just a simple ladder match. And and now that I think of it, again, no surprise that Io Sky and Dakota Kai, the rest of Damage Control, eventually showed up to help out Bayley. But even with that, I remember Bayley really didn't have that close of a chance to reach the belt. So good for Bianca to retain the title. And anyone who's watching out there, if you want to leave in the comments, like, who do you think Bianca's next challenger should be? I remember uh, some some part during the event, whether it was after the ladder match or not. There was this segment with Charlotte Flair talking, and they were showing like video highlights of her career. I'm thinking, when are you coming back, Charlotte? So in my mind, Bianca's next challenger, for that matter, probably won't be, but one of her one of her next challengers in the next couple of months or so should be Charlotte. Um, for that matter, I don't know. I haven't read anything as to when Charlotte's coming back, but hopefully sooner than later. Okay. Um, Next match we have here is the I Quit match with Finn Balor and Edge. Um, I liked I liked how this match was going overall. Um, both guys having once again the momentum and the control, but I surprisingly I still remember very well how this match ended, and even though I have a loyalty towards Rhea Ripley and Finn, um, I was very disgusted how this ended. And actually, now that I remember too, I remember saying to my family that it must be more of a pain for the ref to get in front of whatever superstar he's trying to get the words "I quit" into the microphone there. The ref is holding the mic there, whether he was trying to get it to Edge or to Balor. It must be a pain as much for the ref as it is for the two participants of the match. So a part of me was actually feeling bad for the ref, I remember. But in terms of the end of the match, really stuck out to me. Of course, Edge's wife, real life wife, Beth Phoenix, WWE Hall of Famer, the Amazon, she came in, and because there was, if I remember, there was chairs involved, and the rest of the Judgment Day eventually helped out Finn, and Finn had somewhat of a looked like a backwards like Boston Crab or something, and the rest of the Judgment Day were surrounding both Finn and Edge, and well, Edge also had the crossface with yeah. Now I remember how the chairs were brought in. Edge had a crossface with a leg um, that he broke off of a steel chair, and he was getting that into Finn, but then the rest of the Judgment Day shows up, um, and then so Finn gets into sort of like again sort of like a backwards Boston Crab, and once Beth Phoenix comes into play, of course Rhea Ripley gets in her face and knocks her down and brings in another chair and gets prepared to deliver a concerto right in front of Edge to his wife Beth Phoenix, but Rhea's like, I'll do it, say I quit and I won't do it. So eventually the mic gets in front of Edge's mouth and he's like, I quit, I quit, I quit. So the ref declares the victory for Finn, but unfortunately, Rhea still goes ahead and delivers the concerto to Beth. So, um, despite my loyalty towards Finn, I found this very and Ripley, I found this very disgusting. How far can you go? Or how low can you go? Right? Um, I mean, in terms of its members, the Judgment Day is pretty good faction, but they could go off the wall at times, and wasn't a great way to end the whole, to at least end that match. But nonetheless, I guess that's what you have to prepare for as a competitor when you get into a no disqualification match, especially, and you're dealing with a faction like the Judgment Day. They come out of nowhere, but again, you know, it's the bottom line. That's what they get paid to do. So what are you gonna do? That's the Judgment Day. Okay, main event time for Extreme Rules. Matt Riddle against Seth freaking Rollins, not just Seth Rollins, Seth freaking Rollins. Um, again, I don't know about you guys, but I had never heard of the Fight Pit before. To my knowledge, this was the first ever Fight Pit type of match in WWE history. And forgive me, I forgot to mention the special guest referee, Daniel Cormier. Um, the most I know about Cormier was that, of course, he was a big name in the UFC, mixed martial arts, and for that matter, actually, so was Riddle. Riddle was a former mixed martial arts competitor, so he was more familiar with the idea of the fight pit environment. And there's no question that the highlight or the wow moment in this match was when Riddle made the floating bro off the platform there and delivered that to Seth. And you know, uh, I have to admit it. In my opinion, Riddle's a pretty good actor because when he falls on his back or his ribs or anything like that, he's like, oh, ah, ah. Like he really tries to sell that the fact that he's hurt. And you talk about a sports entertainer, that's Riddle right there. But no question, that was the highlight of the match, and he um, he eventually he eventually picks up the victory. But Seth had his moments too. I was happy to see, and um, of course, I was pulling for Seth. But yeah, good for Riddle. He picks up the victory in the environment he's familiar with. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. No, slipping into DX here. Well, how appropriate. Yeah, I was slipping into DX there because, of course, tomorrow night on Raw, as I mentioned, will be the 25th anniversary celebration of the formation of D-Generation X. That'll be my highlight for Raw, but we'll definitely cover that. Hopefully, my co-host CJ will return. I'm missing him. I don't know about you guys, but I'm missing you, bro, CJ. Hope to see you back, and hope to see you all watching. And again, if you're if you're new to our channel, um, give that pointer there or your mouse there, go up to subscribe, and you'll see a lot more of our retro RawDown shows, and you'll get your wrestling news better than any other wrestling news website. You know, at least thanks, at least thanks to me too. I mean, I like to be as detailed as I can, and but I just hope for all of you that I wasn't talking too much. But again, I like to give detail as best I can. Um, if you all are cool with this, for tomorrow you'll have to put up with me a little more. But this time, I will be joined by my retro bro Frank. We're gonna do a review of one of my all-time favorite pay-per-views, the Survivor Series from all the way back 1992. And if you all are interested, you can check out. We did a SummerSlam '92 review, and as well we've also done SummerSlam 1993. In case you all don't know as of yet, I'm more of a big fan of the like the old school wrestling, so like the new generation era. So we're talking like pretty much like the early '90s. So Frank and I are going to attempt to throw in as much new generation content as possible. So we'll uh, we'll continue that string with once again tomorrow afternoon around noon time, 12 p.m. Bianca time, EST time. So once again, that'll be a Survivor Series 1992 review. And for one, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all checking it out. And I want to give a shout out to my bros CJ and Frank once again for putting up with me. I'm still a rookie at this, you know, especially when it comes to doing these podcasts on my own. I had trouble tonight, but we got through it. And Frank, I hope you're still there because you need to end the stream for me. But uh, but thank you again, guys, for putting up with me and bearing with me. And thank you all. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all enjoy this and that you all will uh, become subscribers or share the channel with your friends. We can use as many subscribers as possible. Um, in case you all don't know, we've hit more than 3,000 subscribers. So let me pull a Chad Gable on all of you. Thank you. And if you subscribe to us, we'll definitely give you a Chad Gable once again. But you know, like DX says, if you don't like us, then we got two words for you. You know what I mean. On that note, I'm Nat. It was a pleasure to talk to you all and to give you my reviews and views. And I'll see you all tomorrow afternoon around noontime. Peace out. Thank you.